Hey you guys, it's Peter, and welcome to my channel, Peterisms, where I tell stories of my life and just little things that I have learned as I have grown into the person that I am today. And I hadn't planned to film over here today, but I got home from the couple's baby shower that we went to today that my husband organized. It was very, very nice. We had a great time, and I ate some breakfast food. I ate some cheese quiche and had a little coffee cake and some coffee and orange juice. It was really nice. So anyway, and now I'm home, and my husband is still hanging out with the other person that he organized the baby shower with. So I thought, why not sit down and film a couple of videos? So I brought the same 4 books that I brought with me yesterday. So let's get right into these and see what they have to tell us today. I think I'm going to start with the Daily Book of Positive Quotations by Linda Picone. It is October 9th. Can't believe the year is going so fast. Let's see what it has to say to us today. October 9th, the right track. Even if you are on the right track, you will get run over if you just sit there. Will Rogers. We've got a plan, and it's a good one. Everything is ready, so we sit and wait for life to start happening. Surely, being poised and ready is enough, but of course, it isn't. Just knowing where we want to go and preparing to go there isn't enough. At some point, sooner rather than later, we need to get moving. It's risky. Things can go wrong, but there's really no alternative. What steps can I take now to move towards my goals? I will do what it takes to act, to follow these steps, and to make things happen. I'm starting to wonder if this is a message I'm supposed to hear in my life right now. It's interesting because I did a meditation, if you remember, I think it was last week, very, very similar to this, and talking about, you know, you can do whatever you want to do with your life. You can achieve whatever you want to achieve and be successful at whatever, but you have to put the action to it. You have to do the work. Do you remember me talking about that? I feel like I just talked about it like a week ago. And then I was having a conversation with a friend about it as well. And I can remember when I read the meditation, I was like, okay, so if I was going to apply this to my life today, what are the things in my life that I'm wanting to do that I'm not doing? You know, what are the goals? Because I do have many goals that I haven't even started to put into action yet or fruition. And I really sat down and kind of inventoried it that day, you know, after that meditation. So I know it was not too long ago, because I can remember sitting down and making the list of what are the things that I want to accomplish in my life that I haven't put any action to whatsoever, you know? Because for me, like an example would be, I've always put, like, every year I make a list of, like, all the goals I want to achieve for the following year. I don't do New Year's resolutions. I usually do, I make a list on my sobriety birthday, which is in December. It's December 17th. And I also make a list on my birthday, which is in June 29th. So I make a list of kind of, like, things that I want to accomplish on both of those dates, and I kind of check in because they're 6 months apart. And every year for, like, man, I don't even know how long. Like, the last 10 years... one of my main goals has been to have the best body that I've ever had in my life, and to be as healthy as I possibly can be, right? Because to me, it's not just about losing a ton of weight and all of that. It's about being really healthy and being able to keep up with my husband, who's 12 years younger than me, and being able to live a long, healthy life, right? And so that's been one of the things that's been on my list forever. And, you know, if you watch my vlog, I talk on there about, like, oh, I'm going to start a diet in, let's say, September or October or November, so that by the time that we go to this music festival that we go to in March, I'll have lost the weight that I wanted to lose, you know? And it's interesting because, you know, I get some kind of cruel comments from sometimes, but there's sometimes they're based in truth. And I remember a couple years ago, and it was actually kind of like a motivating comment, even though it was really negative, and but it didn't motivate me enough to do anything, but I still have it in my head, you know? And I remember this person commented, and they said, we've heard this so many times about the weight loss, watch. March will roll around and he won't have done anything and he'll be the same weight. And I can remember when March rolled around that year, this was before the lockdown and all this kind of stuff. And so I think it was the year before that we went to Florida. And I remember that, like, that March, it was like 3 weeks, and I was like, 3 weeks before we were leaving, and I was like, I'm literally heavier now than I was when I made that statement in September or in October, you know? And I know the things that I need to do. I know what it takes because I have had periods of my life where I have been, I don't even like talking about it at all, because especially in videos, and every once in a while I'll talk about it in a vlog or whatever, but I don't even enjoy talking about it because it's just like, why are we talking about this again? Okay, you know, like, I'm a big person with action, so unless you're gonna do something about it, why even talk about it, you know? But it's so hard, and honestly, you know, like, my issues with food, my food addiction, body dysmorphia, things like that, like, they have been, other than my drug and alcohol addiction, one of the hardest things to overcome in my entire life. In my entire life, right? And, you know, when I was a little kid, up until about middle school, I was a complete beanpole. Like, I was skinny, and I never had to worry about anything, you know? Both of my parents, you know, my mother, she was never super heavy in her life, and my dad has always been in pretty good shape, and he's still, I mean, he's 81 and he still works out, you know, and he still eats really healthy. And so, like, my parents didn't have these issues. And then I can remember getting in middle school, and I didn't, like, grow as fast as everybody else. That didn't happen to me until, like, towards the end of my senior year. This was not the meditation I thought I was going to be talking about today. But anyway, I didn't start growing until, like halfway through my senior year. And so, in middle school, like, while everybody else was, you know, all the other guys and whoever, you know, girls too, were, like, getting taller and thinning out, that didn't happen to me. And I started putting on a lot of weight in middle school. Plus, you know, I've talked about this on here, my 7th and 8th grade years and going into my 9th grade year, I didn't really have any friends. And I think that that was probably, if I go back and I look, that was probably the initiation of my emotional eating. You know, I would eat to celebrate on the weekends by myself, to watch a movie or something with my mom. I would eat when I was sad. I was, you know, I would eat for holidays. Those were things I looked forward to. And then there was a year, and I can't remember if it was going into 10th grade or going into 11th grade, but I believe it was going into 10th grade, because that was the year that I left the junior high and I went into the high school. That summer, I became very committed to being active. My mom and I walked every day, like 3 to 4 miles, and that started her walking. She walked like the rest of her life every day, like 5 miles a day she would walk. And that's probably why she was able to stay fit, you know? But we would walk every day, like 3 to 4 miles, and I would cut up vegetables, and I had these little things in the kitchen that I put them in. And it's funny because I can remember, I think it was the Breakfast Club. So whenever, I don't know what year the Breakfast Club came out, but it would be like right around that time that I had seen that movie and remember Molly Ringwald had the little sushi kit in it. Okay, so I had this kit very similar to that, but I put vegetables in there. And I would take that, you know, to school that year when I started, but that whole summer, all I did was eat vegetables and drink a lot of water. I was doing Jane Fonda's low impact conditioning at my dad's house and swimming laps and walking at my mom's house with her. And those were some of my best memories too. That was like, my mom and I always took walks together. But I really shed some weight that summer, and in not an unhealthy way, you know? And I can remember going back to school that following year, and I had never been like super heavy, but I was chubby. And I can remember going to school that following year and people like really noticing it and being like, oh my God, you lost so much weight. Well, then that went to my head. And I think that started for me this whole issue with food and weight and, you know, equality, you know, equaling, if you're thin, being beautiful, which I just think is such crap, you know? And I don't believe that at all. And then, you know, through the years, I've had periods where I'm extremely healthy. I've had periods where, like, before I was a vegetarian, there was a period where I was running every day, like 5 to 7 miles, and I was working out in a gym, like literally every day, and I mean, I was almost obsessed with it, and I would eat like, for dinner, I would eat like 2 breasts of grilled chicken, and then I would have some like steamed rice and vegetables, steamed vegetables, and a peanut butter sandwich and a glass of milk, and I drank water constantly, and for lunch, I ate a little can of tuna fish and 2 like crackers that came like on top of it. And then I would have one of those small cans of the sodium-free, what do you call it? Sodium-free V8 juice. And I didn't snack at all. I mean, if I snacked, I ate like vegetables. And I look back on that and it was like, I was happy. I was content, you know? But then what happened over the years was that I think like my food addiction took over and my issues with emotional eating took over, and then I just gained a lot of weight. And in the last 10 years since I've been married, I have put on, I mean, I'm so embarrassed to even say it, but like I say it in my personal life. I don't know why I wouldn't say it on a video, but I mean, I literally have gained like 80 pounds since I've been married in 10 years. That's 8 pounds a year, you know? And I am now the heaviest I have ever been in my entire life. You guys don't see it because it's from here, but if you catch me in my vlog, you'll see like my down here or on my side and whatever. And, but you know, I think that one of the things that has happened is I've almost kind of accepted the weight that I'm at, even though I'm unhappy about it. Like, I'm only unhappy about it, like, today, when I was, like, trying to put a cute outfit together to go to this baby shower, you know? But now I have clothes that appropriately fit me, so I can still look cute, and so I don't think about it every day. But the reality is, the older I've gotten, like, the unhealthier it is, you know? And so, this whole situation with food is, like, that has been, you hear me, I mean, I could go and talk about this for hours. This has been something I have wanted to do my entire life. And whenever I talk about this on a video, I always, and thank you, I appreciate it, but I always get tons of comments and people are like, you should do keto, you should do Atkins, you should do, I've done everything. I've done everything. And I think what I know is true for me is healthy eating, you know, and a lot of activity is what I really need to do. And so, you know, when the time comes, you know. But it's like, I want to sit and complain about it. And I don't really complain about it a lot to my friends or anybody anymore. I don't really ever even bring it up because I'm such of the belief now that if you're not going to do anything about it, then shut up, you know. And I can remember when I was getting ready to write my book, and I had like 4 different ideas, and Alex and I would drive around in the car, and I would say, well, I want to write this, or I want to write this, but I don't know which one to write. And finally one day Alex looked at me and he goes, just pick one of them and stick with it and write the book. And I was like, yeah, that's probably pretty true, you know? But my husband is very task-oriented. Like, if he wants to do something, he gets it accomplished. And there was something that I was listening to. Oh, I was listening to the House of Gucci for a true crime book club. And they were talking about somebody in there, and they were saying that, like, anything that he wanted to accomplish in his life, he made happen, you know? And I thought, it's interesting because I very much am that person. You know, it's like anything that I want, like, I go after hardcore. And, you know, even when it was this relationship that I'm in and I wanted it, you know, or whatever. And it's like, but I think there are like 3 or 4 things in my life that maybe I don't feel, I don't know, maybe I'm not ready for it yet. I think you have to step into it and see yourself as that, you know, like, I can remember when I started writing, and that was really what I wanted to do full time. And at the time, my agent and publisher that I was working with, she said to me, you have to think of like the mind of a writer. You have to think, you know, that like I'm a writer. So when people ask you what you do, you say, I'm a writer, right? So like if you're out there and you started a, you know, a beauty makeup channel and you're a makeup artist, when people, and for YouTube, but like you have a day job where you work in an office, when people ask you what you do, you don't say I work in an office, you say, I'm a makeup artist. And you start thinking that way, right? And I think it's a lot about that as well. But I do believe that for anything that we want to achieve in this world, we can make possible, but we have to put the action to it, you know? Are you ready? I mean, I guess that's the question I need to ask myself. Am I ready? I did a lot of inventory the other night and looked at, are these things, or are they things I even really want? Or would I rather just sit and complain about them, you know? Because it gets to be, you know, old after a while, just complaining about the same old thing. So, I don't know, maybe this was a meditation I really needed to read today, you know? That was a good meditation. All right, let's pick one more. I think I'm going to pick a time to be free, daily meditations for enhancing self-esteem, because I just picked this one up, and so I was like, okay, let's see. If it's anything similar to this, I'm going to lose it. October 9th. I was going through one of those periods when it seemed that the bottom was falling out of everything. After several weeks of anguish, I called a friend. He listened patiently while I whined and complained. Then he made 2 specific suggestions. The first was to pray for knowledge of God's will and the power to carry it out. And the second was to find somebody worse off than you are and try to help them. I was annoyed at the suggestions because obviously they had nothing to do with my problems. Soon, however, the problems worsened, so in desperation I took my friend's advice. I prayed as he had suggested. Then, when the opportunity presented itself, I found myself reaching out to a newly sober alcoholic by sharing my own before and after story. What happened after I took these actions may have been predictable to my friend, but it was revolutionary to me. Everything improved. For one thing, my actions took me out of myself. Amen. For another, the problems were reduced to their right size and I regained perspective. Finally, by turning to God and reaching out to another person, I was reminded of what's really important in life. Thought for today. One of the best ways to help myself is by helping someone else. And I think the idea of getting right-sized, I talk about on a regular basis. You know, it's like humbling yourself, getting right-sized. So, interesting story. I've told this on here before. I was having this like horrible day, right? And I had called Tanya like 2 or 3 times, my best friend Tanya, and complained about just what was going on that day. And it was all petty crap, you know? It was nothing serious. And I have been taught this for years since I got sober, you know? Be of service to others, to get out of yourself. When you're having a tough day, get out of yourself. Go do something for somebody else. It will get you out of yourself with quickness, right? But do I always act on these things that I know? No, right? So, you know, she'd say, oh, okay, well, maybe we can get a fountain Coke later or something like that. We can talk about it. And she was like, I'm busy right now, blah, blah, blah. So that night, I went to go pick her up for a fountain pop. And at the time, Tanya has a couple that she's been friends with. She and her husband have been friends with since they like first got married. They're very good friends with. And the husband was very, very ill at the time and has since passed away. And so it was like, they couldn't leave their house or really do a whole lot together. And so anyway, Tanya and I were driving around and I was like complaining about my day and I was like, can you believe this and can you believe that? She wasn't really saying a whole lot, you know? And I said, how was your day? And she said, I had a great day. And I said, well, what did you do today? And she said, well, I went over to so-and-so and so-and-so's house and, you know, I cleaned their house for them. Well, she was like, I got some movies from the Redbox or whatever. And she was like, and then they watched the movies while I cleaned their house for them and I made them dinner so that they could enjoy the day together. And I was like, how do you get there, Tanya? And she was like, what do you mean? And I was like, how do you get there? How do you get to being that selfless? And that is not just Tanya on that specific day. That is Tanya literally every day of her life. My best friend, who I could brag on all the time, is literally the most selfless person I have ever met in my entire life. To the point where I don't even think she realizes it, you know? And I said, how do you get there, Tanya? And she said, I just do what I was taught. And this is what I was taught, you know, in sobriety. To be of service to others, to give to others, to get out of yourself. So it's a very valuable lesson to me to always remember, you know, when you want to get out of yourself, go do something for somebody else. Another thing that I was thinking when I was reading this was, in moments of fear, you know, like, I can remember wanting to ask out my ex, and I was, like, terrified to do it, and I kind of, like, learned this lesson on the spot. I thought of myself, like, on my deathbed, right? Because there are people that, they don't have much time left, let's be honest, right? And I thought of myself, like, you know, in comparison to that. When I look back on my life, well, that moment, because my mother, one of the things that, you know, she had taught me later was, she said, you know, at the end of your life, it's not the things you did you regret, it's the things you never tried. And so, at the end of my life, you know, whenever I'm, like, wanting to do something, but I'm, like, nervous about it or whatever, because I don't know the outcome, or if it's going to be positive, or if I'm going to be successful, right? And going back to kind of the first meditation, I always think like on my deathbed, like looking back if I have that opportunity, right? Is this going to be a moment that I wish I had taken? Is this going to be something I wish I had tried? Or am I going to look back and realize it just wasn't that big of a deal anyway? You know what I mean? Because I think we work these things up so much in our head, and then we look back on them and we're like, well, they weren't really that big of a deal anyway. And so I kind of use that deathbed analogy for myself when I'm going through something and I'm like trying to figure out, like, am I making this more out of it than it really is, you know? But these were such good meditations for me today and such good reminders of things I needed to remember, of being of service to others, and whatever it is that you want to do with your life, do it, you know? And do it now, because life is short and life is fragile. So anyway, I hope that you enjoyed these meditations as much as I did. I love you guys. I hope that you're having a magically amazing weekend. I love you, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye.